Good morning, all, and welcome to the latest in our series of cybersecurity webinars in Austria. And for anyone who has not met me, my name is Darren Mooney. I am the head of security here at Nostra. We would like to thank you for all joining us today, both attendees from our previous webinars, and also for people who may have been joining us for the very first time. And for anyone who couldn't make our previous webinars, they are available on Nostra's YouTube channel, and we will share them after today's session. In every webinar, we discuss the importance of multi-layered approach to cybersecurity. We also always discuss policies and frameworks because they are the backbone of any good security posture. In the last webinar, we looked at preparing for security assessments and penetration testing. We discussed the importance of testing your IT environment and processes. Today, we are going to look at a critical area of good cybersecurity, and that is immutable backups, which are part of the Nostra security fundamentals that we recommend for all our customers to have. Not all backups are created equally, so please listen to our advice today. As always, the sessions are best when they're interactive, so please give us any questions that you have. Post them in the chat and we'll handle them for you as we move through the presentation. At the end of today's session, we will have a panel here to deal specifically with Q&A. We're recording the sessions and we will send on the recordings and slides to attendees afterwards. Okay, so with that, I'd like to welcome you again and hand over to our CTO, Gary Melvin, and a little later in the presentation to our Head of System Control, Declan Clancy, who will be taking you through today's webinar.
Thank you, Darren, and welcome everybody, and welcome back to the webinar series from Nostra, and we hope you're enjoying them so far. So as Darren said, today we're covering a topic called Immutable Backup. We have a panel for discussions and questions, so keep those questions coming in. We have Jason Burns, who runs our compliance department, Darren, who leads security, Declan, who leads everything system control and patching, and myself then in terms of CTO role. So one of the things we'll continue to just review across all the webinars is the security fundamentals. So we've put these in place over the last year, and what we're recommending is all customers do the basics well and puts you in a really good place. So making sure firewalls are in place, that we have secure remote access and secure work from home. Nostra Cloud Shield is being designed to secure your Office 365 environment. Over 90% of cyber attacks start in Office 365 or email. To do so, we are and have put a lot of effort into securing the Office 365 platform with over 100 security controls and ongoing monitoring. So that's a big thing. We've ran a few webinars on securing Office 365, and we suggest that you check those out if you haven't done already. Immutable backup. So this is something that we're covering in detail today, and Declan is going to go through that. So one of the things that happens in the event of a cyber attack is that the bad actors, first and foremost, get access to the systems. The second is that they will attack the backup. So what they want is that the end customer or the end user cannot restore your data from backup. And we need to ensure that everybody has a backup that can't be deleted or disrupted. So that's where immutable backup comes in. And this is the change in backup technology over the last couple of years. So as the threat changes, some of the solutions have to change as well. So we're currently migrating our customers away from legacy backup products, such as Veeam and some of the other products that are out there that don't have immutability built in by default. So big item and one of the fundamental things we need to do to protect our organizations. Educating the end user is the number 4. So typically it is not the systems that get hacked, it's the user. That's done using phishing emails, targeted social engineering. So education of the end user gets number 4 and is a big item. And the last item then is number 5, is making sure everything is kept up to date. So no matter what's on your network, it needs to be kept up to date. So retiring legacy systems, whether you're running old versions of hardware servers, and then for this year, the big one in October is migrating away from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and Windows 11 has a lot more security features, so that's a big thing for us this year. So keeping everything up to date and removing legacy systems. If we do all of this, it puts us in a good place, and then we start building out the security journey from there and overlaying some of the nicer security tools on top of that. So just moving on then from the NIST perspective, everything we do is around NIST. So this is not the opinion of myself, Darren, or Declan, or Jason. We use the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is designed to be a easy to follow, easy to understand security framework that is always changing. So today we're looking at the green spot, which is the recovery. So in order to recover, we need to have the backup in place. So this is broken down into the 5 different sections, and it has a compliance wraparound on it. But essentially, the NIST framework comes from a National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US, continues to evolve, and if we do everything on that, puts us in a really good place. The other security standards we look at is the ISO, CIS controls, and then we also follow a certification out of the UK called Cyber Essentials, which is a really real world certification as well. Modern threats are evolving, so that's why we need to move towards the mutable backup side. The majority of threat actors are using tools that are available on the systems that they attack. So they're not uploading lots of different tools. They will get access to a system using a compromised VPN account or a phishing attack. Someone clicks on a link, gets access to one machine, works their way across the network using tools on the desktops, on the servers, and their aim is to delete the backup. So that's where we're trying to focus on, is if we have a good place in terms of backups, then we can always recover. And then it comes to the decision is, well, what's our backup stance? So, and this is where Jason comes in terms of backup policies. So if anybody on the call would like to discuss a backup policy or how to generate a good backup policy. So everything starts from a compliance point of view. First is the management and decisions around what is it from a business we want to do that goes into a policy. And these are some of the questions that gets asked while we're generating a policy. So it's how often do we want to back up our critical data? Is it hourly? Is it nightly? Is it weekly? And that's the systems that Declan is looking at can go down to hourly and even closer than that. How long do we want to keep the data? Do we keep it daily, weekly, yearly? And then do we have a combination of all of that so we can go back? And there are big decisions that need to be made. Where's the data kept? Do we keep it both on site for quick recovery? Do we keep it off site in the event of a loss of site? So when we're doing our backup strategy and looking at our backup policy, we're of course trying to protect against from cyber, but we also have to take into account what if the site burns down. Then the next thing is, where's my data? If my data is on premise, it could be in the cloud. All your data needs to be backed up no matter where it sits. Just because you migrate data to the cloud doesn't automatically mean it gets backed up. So if you look at the terms and conditions of most cloud services, they will say, we're providing a service, the data is yours, you have to back it up separately. And then you get into recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives, that in the event of an issue, how long is it going to be going to take us to restore? Where are we going to restore to? And how long is that going to take us? And they're all big questions. So I don't know, Jason, if you have anything else to say on the policy piece, but policy, ask questions, they get answered. From there, then we can start putting a backup solution in place.
Yeah, I think from a simple point of view with the policies, I always come back to, do we know that we have it? So know your data, know that you have all your critical data or systems in place. Can you get it back quickly enough as to when you need it? Consider the point, what will it cost the company if we can't restore our system in time for us to be operational again? And then the final element is, how long am I supposed to be keeping the data from a regulatory framework? So there's 2 elements to regulatory or compliance now. Do we have the right data, and are we keeping it for too long? And can we restore it in an appropriate time period that will accommodate the regulation or framework that we're under? So, for example, under DORA, we must maintain suitable redundant IT facilities. In other words, can we get the data into another location quickly enough to be back up and running at a simple level there?
Perfect. So policies ask the questions, that they have good discussions. That's why we're here. And Jason's available to have those discussions at any point in time. So as part of this exercise, we suggest that you review your backup policy and then look at your backup and make sure. And that's something that should be done on an ongoing basis, along with backup testing and everything else. But the policy review at least once a year under any standard, and then make sure that if there's any changes throughout the year in your data, if you've moved to cloud or you moved to different, that everything is catered for, because it does change and everything does change. Going to hand over to Darren to introduce Declan. So Declan works as part of Darren's team, and Declan is going to take us through everything that is Immutable Backup then.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yes, so I'd like to introduce you to Declan Clancy. Declan has been working in the IT industry now for 15 plus years, and he has been one of Nostra's, hope he doesn't mind me saying, most brilliant senior engineers. As a part of that role, he was the lead designer of our disaster recovery and business continuity solutions. He now leads our system control team, so overseeing critical services like backup management, server patching, and monitoring. So he's going to walk us through some of our backup products and why immutability is so important in today's IT landscape. So over to you, Declan.
Thanks, Darren. So I want to go through Immutable Backups today, but just in general how the technology works. So again, I suppose first and foremost for people that don't know, what are immutable backups? So they're unchangeable backups. They're copies of files and data that can't be altered or tampered with for a preset period of time. So again, part of that is it can't be deleted, and it's really protection against, as Gary was saying, the ransomware epidemic that's out there at the moment. It's getting stronger, faster, and they're finding more attack vectors than ever before. It is a real world global threat to everyone's data. It also protects against insider threats. We don't like to think that those happen, but they also do and need to be mitigated against. And then thirdly, human error as well, where somebody will accidentally delete something. It does happen. So again, where data needs to be got back at a virtual machine level, at a file level, or at full site level. So again, to make sure that these things have immutable backups to protect against those. Pairing, it's sort of directly related to immutable backup, but offsite backup is a really key part of this as well. So again, this is where your data is backed up outside of your production environment. And an international sort of standard for that is the 3-2-1 backup rule. So that's a backup strategy. It's a best practice framework, and it means you have 3 copies of your data, including your primary actual production data, stored in 2 different types of media. So you may have it on server, NAS, or another backup appliance, and then 1 copy stored offsite, and that ensures redundancy, resiliency, and that you can recover in the event of hardware failure, cyber attack, or physical disaster. So the benefits around those are physical disaster recovery, so loss of building or hardware, separating from the production compromises. So again, if your data is compromised on premises, you want to actually have a sort of an air-gapped offsite backup from that as well. The immutability goes hand in hand with that to make sure that you can get that data back. And then it covers off regulatory compliance as well, like GDPR, ISO 27001, and in the US, HIPAA standards as well. And then ties in with the cybersecurity frameworks that Gary and Jason were talking about earlier. So NIST2, DORA, and Cyber Essentials as well. It's a key part of that. And again, it's not just a local to Ireland thing. It's really global standards for data protection. Okay, so why do they both matter together? So immutable backups and offsite storage combined really offer that cyber resiliency against these ransomware attacks, insider threats, and human error. It gives you a backup strategy that you can work with going forward to future-proof your environment. And again, if ransomware encrypts your live systems, you'll have untouched copies, depending on the system you have on site or off site as well. Okay, so I'm just going to use some hypothetical real world examples, and I suppose not naming names, but I have seen these in the real world as well. So it's really, these are standards hypotheticals that happen every day of the week across multiple companies, both in Ireland and across the world. So without immutable backups, so a small law firm suffers a ransomware attack over a long weekend, and again, that's something to bear in mind. Sometimes these are actually really targeted attacks. I've seen them. I've worked on ones myself over New Year long weekends, where they will actually bide their time and wait to attack you when people are off for a 3-4 day period, where things will be maybe recognized in a slower fashion. The attacker encrypted not only their servers, but reached their attached backup storage that was directly accessible from the network. Since the backups could be modified, they were encrypted also too. You can see things like on-premises NAS that are unsecured or on the same LAN can be reset. Again, you will lose data there. And again, the firm had no clean recovery point and were forced to pay a ransom. They experienced 5 days of downtime and a significant reputational hit. And again, these are real world scenarios that companies do get hit with that think they're covered off. With immutable backups, so a mid-sized manufacturing company was hit with ransomware via phishing email that compromised a user account. As Gary said earlier, that is one of the most prominent attack vectors globally now, is just to be able to get in, compromise an account and work from there. The attack encrypted core business files, including their ERP system data. However, the backup solution used immutable cloud snapshots, backups that couldn't be altered or deleted, and the result was that they were able to restore the affected systems from the most recent backups within hours, without paying ransom, without losing critical data. And really, one of the key things is to be able to become operational in a very short space of time, so it doesn't affect your business and your reputation. And then I'm just going to talk through the generic technology stack. So again, it's really a whole package of things you should be looking for around your backup system. So again, local backup and cloud backup, storage immutability, so that your backups can't be tampered with or deleted, secure transport, so making sure the backups are encrypted, and also the replication to offsite is encrypted as well. Looking at your retention policies, short-term and long-term, in terms of your business as well. They go from everything to, a number of days to infinite retention, depending on your business needs. And then backup verification, so automated boot testing. And I suppose with those things, it should be said that backup verification with automated boot testing, when your backups image is spun up, it takes a screenshot, verifies that it can get to OS level, but it's not to be substituted or confused with an actual DR test. Those things should be, carried out at least annually, and make sure that you have things covered off in terms of your return point objective, your return time objective, and that your testing is robust and it's part of your BCP planning. Okay, so one of the solutions we use, or our primary solution is with Datto. It's one of the umbrella companies under Kaseya. So they are a global leader in backup, disaster recovery, and business continuity solutions. They're purpose-built for MSPs, and they work hand in hand with our ticket operating systems, our monitoring tools, for seamless alerting. So if anything goes awry, we can get on those and remediate as soon as possible. So they have different offerings around server level backup, where you have on-premises servers with heavy application load and stuff like that. BCDR is the primary option, so it does local and cloud backup for fast recovery for servers. There is DataDeb, which is endpoint protection with direct to cloud backups for smaller environments. Again, they protect servers as well on premises. And then there is Datto DBMA, so that's Datto backup for Microsoft Azure, that integrates with your Azure environment, backup Windows servers for storage, immutable storage outside your tenants. So again, why it matters, immutable backups that can't be altered and deleted, offsite storage in Datto Cloud, automated backup verification so that we can make sure that the image is actually good and that if something does happen, that we can restore data or entire virtual machines, and then fast recovery from ransomware, human error, or hardware. So again, packages like that are better than standard backup, because usually a backup you need to restore to an environment in order to be able to spin back up your machines, and where it's got DR built in and virtualization, it means that you can get back up and running very fast, even if your hardware is down.
I'll just let you catch your breath for 1 second, Declan, just to see if we have any questions. Because it is, I know this is a huge topic, and our audience probably have concerns around it. So please do add any questions you have in the chat. I don't see any coming. Oh, actually, do we have one coming in there? Yeah. So just a question quickly to the panel. What are the what is the most common challenges organizations face during data recovery, and how can they mitigate it? So
I'll take one of those, just on that one, because it's something we come up against a good bit, Deck, before you jump in, is the size of the data can be a challenge, and then making sure that we have enough recovery points for the data. So it's designing a good backup policy that you can go back. So if backups happen nightly, weekly, monthly, that we're keeping backups for those nightly, weekly for 5 weeks, monthly for 13 months, and yearly for 6 years, so that you have the backup coverage to, if someone comes and says, I have a really important folder, I haven't actually looked at it in 6 weeks, 6 months, and then somebody has deleted it and it's not in the deleted item, so we can go back and get that. One of the other challenges at the moment is data is not all in one place. So data is, and our critical systems are spread across different data centers, different cloud services. So our backup policy and plan needs to cater for that. So every organization typically we're working with is on a cloud first IT strategy. They're moving data to different cloud services, which is right. But then we have to make sure that that data is secure, it's backed up, and we can have a recovery position. And the last piece I'm going to just cover off is the size of the data. If we're backing up 10 terabytes of data, customers have to be aware of the amount of time it takes to recover all that data. And the only way to know that is by doing regular testing and disaster recovery testing. Because if you have 100 gigs of data, or as a certain amount of time, if you have 10 terabytes, it takes a lot longer. So you're not going to be back in a couple of hours. It's going to be a couple of days. And then you have to think then is, do I know the size of my data? And how do I know that? Is you run a disaster recovery test. So there are just a couple of things that come in there. So sorry, Dick, I'll hand it back to you.
no, that's just such a key point to people understand, that if we're restoring over the cloud and we only have a cloud backup and we're not virtualized, that we have a repository, that we need to bring that back on premise to some clean hardware. So something to consider in your policy and your strategy. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
just to reinforce what Gary was saying around the testing, under a number of the frameworks, testing of your critical and important systems or data is a requirement under the regulations. And I would say it's one of the challenges, if you haven't been doing the testing, is understanding what it will take to actually get your systems back up and running. So time spent over a good disaster recovery test is time well spent. There's also a question there from Patrick. Patrick, thank you for that. Yes, the data retention policies around backups can be a challenge. Referring specifically to the GDPR, there has been guidance that if it's in a suitably protected backup, that they consider that once that backup expires, that would be acceptable. But it always is well to keep on top of these guidance to make sure nothing has changed around those.
yeah, and just to step in there on a couple of the points that you raised, Gary and Jason. So I would suggest, and I've seen it myself in terms of file restore and sort of the way I call it is nearly like data creep with file servers. So you would see some customers with several terabytes of files on a server, and some of them may not have been accessed in years. So it's always good to speak to us about, if you have a large amount of data, is there a way that can be split out into what you consider your sort of live production data that you need to go back to within a certain period of time, or stuff that won't necessarily need to be touched, but can still be accessed. So into sort of a production and an archive server for files. That way, if you need to get back up and running for your day-to-day operations, it will be much faster than restoring, let's say, 6 to 10 terabyte file server as well. So it's something to bear in mind with your RPO and RTO as well, to get those back. And in relation to the retention policy side of it, that can be bespoke down to each server as well, depending up to do infinite retention as well. So we can cover off that side of it for specific circumstances too. So I suppose one of the main products that we would sort of endorse as well is Datto BCDR. So it's backup continuity and disaster recovery. It's an appliance that sits on site to do local backups. It does it at an encryption level. It communicates directly with servers. It can back up from hourly to daily, really. So you can have hourly backups during production hours to make sure that you can get back to really recent time points as well. And then it also covers offsite replication of those from that device, which is all again done encrypted securely. It's not just immutable in the cloud with the BCDR devices, it's also immutable locally. And again, there's different things that we do in terms of security there, where it can't be accessed locally. It needs to be accessed through an MFA secure cloud portal. So it means if somebody compromises your local production environment, that they can't actually get access to that box at all. And even if they were able to, which is unlikely with the lockdown, the local lockdown and encryption, there are additional encryption passphrases in play there as well. And then so key benefits, so it has a sort of a different technology to traditional backup chains that had a full backup and then sort of daily or hourly backups chains that can get corrupted and can cause restore issues. It uses inverse chain technology, which means that it sort of embeds those newer backups in, make sure that they're bootable and that you have a valid restore point to go back to. It has fast recovery as well with local virtualization, with less latency over the local network as well. And then there is offsite virtualization, which is how we run sort of DR testing to those as well, to make sure that loss of building, a cybersecurity attack against your on-prem environment, that we can get you back up in Datto Cloud as well, to virtualize the machines there until a full recovery can be undertaken. Datto DebDior, it's very similar on the virtualization side in the cloud, but it's direct to cloud. It doesn't have an on-prem appliance, so it's used for backing up servers directly. It's perfect for smaller environments. So again, domain controllers, small file servers, app servers that use web access, let's say, rather than sort of a client on machines. And then the immutability, the snapshots again have the same immutability protection in the cloud. And then also you can restore at server level, file level, or virtualize in Datto Cloud as well. And then VPN in to be able to access resources. It also covers Azure as well, so so it can protect so Datto DBMA, which is Datto Backup for Microsoft Azure, protects Azure Windows VMs with independent backup into Datto Cloud. So if anything goes against or if anything goes down in Azure, whether it's an outage or a cyber attack on your tenancy, again, you can fail over to Datto Cloud and then restore seamlessly. It works on API technology. So again, it's properly authorized secure application layer encryption from Microsoft Azure to Datto Cloud. And again, you can take up to hourly backups with that as well. And that protects you against sort of tenant level attacks or misconfiguration or deletion in Azure as well to be able to restore your environment.
So Declan, may I just add it that,
yes.
So what we're saying here is that if Microsoft Azure goes down, if we have a fully cloud environment, that we can run our environment off this device.
Yes, absolutely. So again, with all of your servers in the cloud as well, it is unlikely. So again, with Microsoft Azure, you've got your 99.59 uptime over the course of a year, guaranteed. So it is unlikely to go down. But what you would have most likely is if there is a misconfiguration or a deletion somewhere, or if a tenant is attacked and compromised. Those are probably the most likely scenarios to come into play. Will allow you to have continuity in that circumstance. Again, similar to the BCDR and the DebDR side, you can virtualize your environment in Datto Cloud and run there in a sort of a BCP continuity plan until your tenancy is ready to restore to.
Thank you for that.
No problem. Okay, and the other side that we haven't spoken about yet is the Microsoft 365 side as well. So again, similar to the Azure side, again, misconfiguration, deletion, or a tenant compromisation where somebody may encrypt or delete data across SharePoint, OneDrive, email, Teams. So it's cloud to cloud. It works in a similar way with API across from Microsoft 365 to Datto Cloud. And again, it automates backups up to 3 times a day. So again, within the first 8 hours of the day, the second 8 hours, and the final 8 hours of the day, it covers your email, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams, and it's immutable also. So again, that protects against either malicious or accidental deletion on that side. So again, with the retention periods, backups are pruned or deleted when the retention policy is applied, but outside of that, you can't compromise those backups. So again, Microsoft don't protect against permanent deletion. So again, there may be things available in a recycle bin, let's say emails for 30 days, so you may be able to get back from a second stage recycle bin, but it can't be counted upon as a backup. And again, if anything is synced with a OneDrive tool to OneDrive or SharePoint, and the endpoint machine that's on is compromised, that can encrypt that data as well. And again, it's difficult to recover that within Microsoft. And again, you're looking at possible data loss there as well. And then there's fast granular recovery times as well, minimize those disruptions. So again, you can get everything back from a single email to a whole mailbox, and the same with SharePoint sites, OneDrive sites, and Teams. Okay, and just circling back on the compliance and regulatory benefits. So offsite immutable backups help with standards like GDPR, ISO 27001 and HIPAA for the US and other healthcare compliance standards. And they follow the cybersecurity frameworks like NIST2, DORA and Cyber Essentials as well. So it covers off an awful lot, and I've actually seen it recently as well in a lot of cybersecurity insurance. They're starting. I know Gary has mentioned it before that those have become, from 10-page to nearly 40-page documents in some cases. And I was helping to fill one out recently for a customer, and again they're starting to ask questions around immutability. So I'm sure that will affect your loading on insurance policies going forward as well, because it's such a key part of it.
Yeah, I'll come in there just on that one, because it is a one question piece is on around backups. Do you maintain backups on the cyber insurance forms, and are they immutable? If somebody clicks that they are immutable and then there is a cyber incident and they're using a legacy product like Veeam or something else that's not immutable, then it makes their cyber insurance null and void. I suppose the bigger thing is that Veeam is immutable, so the backups are probably deleted at that point. But it does, and that's where the cyber insurance forms, we are seeing that those forms that are being filled out is what has been used at the start of any incident to say that this is what you told us, and this is what we'll use. And if there's anything that's incorrect on this, it essentially makes your claim under cyber null and void. So that is a very big component of it. The only last thing I'm going to say as well, Deck, is you covered the Office 365 piece, and that is one of those services from Microsoft that they don't provide backup. There is a deletion and a restore capability, and I think but for the most part, unless you're paying for a separate backup, your terms and conditions for Microsoft services don't include backup unless you have it turned on separately. And their terms of service pretty much says they provide the service and the backup of the data is yours. And that's the same with most cloud services. They provide the service, the data is yours. Your responsibility is the data. You have to protect that. And I see Jessica had a question in the chat as well, kind of in relation to something very similar, was that would the approach for backups different if it is data on a cloud, or and it is very different, because not all clouds are equal. And ideally, if you have a cloud backup, you don't want all your, if you have a cloud service, you don't want all your eggs in one basket. You want to be doing enough cloud backup to somewhere else. So making sure that if you have your critical data in the cloud, that you've gone through exactly what that service is doing for backup, and making sure there is multiple layers there as well. So there's quite a bit in the cloud backup piece. So just moving the data to the cloud doesn't mean you lose responsibility for the data. It means you're consuming a service. You still have to mine the data and be the data custodian throughout its lifetime in the cloud. So, fire it back to you again, Nick. So I come in there on that one. Thanks,
Gary. And then I suppose just in closing, really, why this matters, true cyber resilience. So ransomware isn't a matter of if, it's when, and that isn't just me saying that. That's been the central bank stance on it as well for years now, even going through the 2010s. I know they published white papers in 2016 and 2019 around operational resilience. That, with the upsurge in ransomware attacks, it's worse in the last year or so than I've seen it since the, about 2015, 2016. And again, things like COVID-19 pandemics and natural disasters. So again, this is a quote from the central bank, and you'll see that we've highlighted the recognizing that all potential hazards, not all potential hazards can be prevented. So the central bank have taken a pragmatic view of, you can't just rely on cybersecurity to absolutely keep everything out. You have to be prepared to be able to recover in those instances, because vulnerabilities that exist but aren't highlighted or discovered yet, can be under the surface. Nothing can be 100% leak proof. So it's really down to making sure you are recovered with offsite, with immutable backups, to be able to recover in those instances. And this is where the whole, the central bank were on this even before DORA came into existence. It is, it's basically a global framework of what is generally accepted now, that you have to protect yourselves properly against when these things can happen, because it doesn't matter how big or small your company is. If you can be compromised, somebody will try and get in and take advantage of that. So again, immutable offsite backups, they're survival, not luxury. It's protecting your data. Everyone's businesses now are so wrapped up in digital data that has to be protected, similar to how you secure a building. And again, data solutions, they're purpose built for today's threats, and they're evolving. They they have scaled up things around Azure protection, Microsoft 365 protection, to be able to protect people's data with immutability and offsite as well. And then it's basically a fundamental security recommendation.
Okay, that's excellent, Declan. Thank you so much for that. I think in summary there, and from we've seen attacks on the rise at an alarming rate, and really it comes back down to, we're only as good as our last backup, and how is that protected? Because Gary alluded to earlier, during an attack, the first thing they're going to go and try to get after is your backup, so we can't recover. So they're looking in the event of, unfortunate event of a ransomware attack, they're bolstering their position. So please, if you've any questions on this whatsoever, please reach out to your account manager. And that, just to go back briefly to Jessica's question, or excellent question earlier, was, if you have a fully SaaS application in the cloud, and if it's something like Sage in the cloud, whatever that is, you need to be going to that vendor and asking them how they're protecting that data for you, because it is your responsibility. So I think with that said, that we've come to the end of today's webinar. So our next one is on the 20th of May, and we'll be covering off an introduction to frameworks. So just a quick reminder then that today's recording will be shared with all attendees. And there's no further questions in the chat.
I think there is one from James Mullen there. Sorry, I'll just take that one. Yeah, sorry. He says, I, as the attacker, discovered that the backup data is immutable. I know that my malware won't be able to encrypt it all and hold it hostage. Can I get access to the data at a lower level? Can I log into the operating system where the data is being stored? I suppose part of the immutability is not just it being immutable, it's how it's dealt with operationally. So if there's a data BDCR appliance on premises, we try to isolate that device so that it can't be logged into locally. It can't be got with. There's encryption passphrases that mean that nobody can access it at a file level or a virtual machine level, even if they were able to get access to the box, which again, local logon is disabled without that passphrase, and again, that isn't kept anywhere on that box. It's kept in an offsite special password vault, and again, even in the event of the cloud virtualization side, if you need to get access to any data for DR testing, file level restore, virtual machine restore, what it actually does is it takes a copy of the immutable backup and basically puts it into a DMZ so that you are accessing only that. So even my team can only get access to the copy of that data, but not the actual immutable data itself, so that if somehow the file level or virtual machine level that we access is encrypted or compromised somehow, the original mutable backup data is kept completely separate. So that is protected on that side. So that is a great question, and that is part of how immutable backups and offsite should work, is that it's always air-gapped and protected from any tampering with.
Excellent question, James. Thank you so much for that. So any closing remarks from our panel today, Gary, Jason?
I think just to reinforce, take a look at your data, make sure your critical data is being protected in a manner that you can recover your business in the time you expect to be able to do it. Historically, that was quite often a surprise to customers who didn't have the more highly evolved solutions in place as to how long it could take. So reinforce the testing of your situation and make sure you're able to do it. And I think the other thing to bear in mind around your RTOs and RPOs, which comes across my desk from time to time, is sometimes you may have contractual obligations as well as regulatory or framework. So for example, I have one customer that one of their major suppliers will allow them to have one shift down. But in the event that a second shift isn't producing the product for them, they start to incur penalties under the contract. So it's not just a concept of there's a regulation that requires it or best practice. Sometimes it can be your customers actually require it as well.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, just from my side, I think it's one of the most fundamental things to make sure that your data is fully backed up. You're aware of how long it's going to take you to recover, where you're going to recover to, that is being tested, and that your backup is immutable. So anything can happen. And if you have a really good backup strategy plan and it's immutable, can't be tampered with, then you're still in a good place. Then it's just only a matter of time before you can recover. So you have guaranteed recoverability. Unfortunately, that's with the involvement of cyber threats. Some of the legacy products don't have that. So kind of asking all our customers to review their backups, have the backup discussion with us, bring in Jason, Declan, Darren, the whole team here in Nostra can help, especially account managers. I think we've contact details for Gary Burnett on a slide next. If anybody doesn't have a Nostra assigned account manager, just contact Gary. He will reach out and put you in discussion with the right people. But backups, probably the place to start. It is the last piece on the NIST framework, but probably the most important piece, because if you have a good backup, you are testing it, you know how long it takes to recover, you're starting off in a good position. Everything else then is just inconvenience to get you back up and running.
Thank you so much, Gary. I had big shoes to fill today, is because Gary Byrne wasn't available. He'll be back for the next one, I'm sure. So thank you for your time and attendance today. I hope you found it informative, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.